Hiya guys, welcome to Art of the Arrow. My name's Michael and today I'm showing you round 3 of the local Armoury event. It is myself as Azalea versus Dan Mills playing Riptide. So this video with Dan Mills in, it was absolutely brilliant to see him playing again. Playing as someone that he enjoys, and honestly anytime me and him used to verse each other the previous years, previous events, it was always such a fun game, and it's good to see him back with, especially with a hero that he even admits himself he is absolutely loving at the minute. That's always a great thing to see in someone. So usually with Riptide I'm never 100% sure on what to actually side in and how my plan is against him, because there's not really any Riptide I've played against that's the same as the last one. It's always been some sort of different style of play, whether it's a heavy trap one and just try to shut you down, whether it's death dealing and just wanting to go quite aggro, using his ability just to constantly load up arrows that have go again. And sometimes I have played against some that don't even want to attack you at all and they want to try and fatigue you. So this is always going to be an interesting matchup for me to kind of think how is it actually going to be. You're never going to know it until you actually go against them and get a few turns in. So right off the bat here, I'm loading up in a remorse list to see what I can draw into, and read the glide path I have revealed Bolton shot, and straight away I'm just going to be pushing damage on that turn 1 because on turn 0 he's just going to have the chance to block out, and usually I like to go first just to try and push some damage, but see if I can push any interesting on hits, and in this case I've got myself go again. Lace of Blood Rod. Dan's obviously already forgetting what Azalea does. It's dominated, so he's only going to be able to block with 1 card, and I'm choosing just to go straight forward here and push as much damage as possible, and especially with it being Riptide starting on 38 health, and pushing damage as soon as possible to see if I can try and end it early before anything fancy comes my way. So for anyone not familiar with the Bloodpox token, it's come from Lace of Blood Rod that give +3 to my previous arrow, the Bolton shot, and basically all it does is give the opponent 2 damage unless they appear 3 at the end of their turn. So it's forcing more damage from your side, even not on your turn. It's such a brilliant card, and it's even a brilliant card just to kind of end a game if they can't fully block the infecting shot or a Lace of Blood Rot and go into the end game. And right now Dan already, like I mentioned before, a strategy that can come from Riptide is a go wide strategy. So he's already scarred from hand, activating Riptide's ability to load up since he's played a card from hand, and then followed up with the Falcon Wing. So there's 7 damage already that he has pushed through, and without even using the bow, he has pitched a saving shot to fire a saving shot, and on 1 turn there, brilliant play from Dan in my opinion, pushing 12 damage whilst also taking 2 from the Bloodpox as well. So my 7 was outmatched by his 12. It was such a brilliant kind of play by Dan, absolutely fantastic to see. That's one sort of play that I cannot afford to do at Nationals. We both almost missed the Bloodpox damage taking place there, so any damage is, you know, it could be detrimental to an end game, so you always want to make sure you remember your triggers in these games. My turn, I'm revealing another Bolton shot, so hopefully I'll be getting a go wide turn. Oh, I'm not going for that, I'm Azaleaing into... Now this is a gameplay that a lot of people can't understand with Azalea, and I don't know why. They don't know why I would get rid of a Bolton shot in Arsenal to then fire to go into a buff up like Lace of Inertia, be given +3 to my next arrow. It is essentially, to me, if I can get a buff up in Arsenal and then get another one in hand, load up an arrow, and then get once more, that's +9 potentially on the next arrow. And in this case I'm getting +6 and using everything else to pitch for Battering Bolt to come their way. Now this is a card you might not have seen is used before, so I'll explain all the cards in play at the minute. There is Lace of Inertia. I've explained in the previous video, it's like Seek and Destroy, except you'll be wanting to get rid of your hand and arsenal to the bottom of your deck. Premeditate's given +3 to essentially the next level, the next attack from Arsenal, and if the next one hits, you get a ponder on the next attack that hits, doesn't have to be the very next one. And Battering Bolt will be reveal their hand if this hits, and anything that isn't an action, so a gem, a reaction, an instant, they would get rid of that card too, and then lose life for every card played, discarded, sorry, that way. That is a really good combo with Dreadball, and if it doesn't allow your opponent to actually use cards from defense reactions from hand, because if this hits and they reveal any, it's especially good against the fatigue decks that have to get rid of them cards essentially on top of the damage they're taking, so they take so much damage from it. Dan fully blocking that previous attack from Battering Ball and just hitting me back with a Lace of Inertia saving shot again. And I'm blocking 3 it looks like, and just taking the damage to hopefully hit back harder. So I've just chosen to soak up that damage because obviously I've had a plan to load up Red in the Ledger, pitch in and Knock the Death Whistle. To also use Knock the Death Whistle to go and find another Red in the Ledger, I assume. Yep, because I'm sensing now that Dan's deck is not built as a heavy trap. It will obviously have traps in. It'd be a bit stupid to not actually include any traps in my opinion for Riptide. But all I'm doing here is setting up for a Dominate. And I'm guessing, unless I have a buff up, I'll be breaking Braces of Belief. If you don't know what Braces of Belief does, I've mentioned it in the last video. It is such a good substitute to Bullseye Braces. You reveal the top card in the deck, and the next attack action card you play gets +3 minus the pitch of whatever card you have on top of deck. So if you use Knock the Death Whistle, I've played a second Knock the Death Whistle, so all 3 knocks are in on the field at this point. That's not what I want to see. With Braces of Belief, what you can do is knock and search the arrow that you want. Most of the arrows that you are going to be using or looking for have red pitch, so your next card will have +2. It's guaranteeing that, and then when you can do is Azalea into that card, and if it is an arrow, which it obviously will be, it has a +2 Dominate. Having 5 Dominate, it's easily blocked, but having a 7 Dominate just makes it that little bit more awkward to actually get around, especially if your opponent has no arsenal. They have to try and find out a way, whether it's unmovable, and as Dan is doing right now, Crown of Providence, just to try and block all of it, but it is very unlikely that would happen in a Ranger game. And all I've done with my second knock, obviously he's played Inertia, so I'm not going to have a chance to play it next turn, is just set up my next turn with another Red in the Ledger guaranteed in hand. Me taking that Inertia was obviously planned out some sort of different way, but Inertia, he's trap, he's used as a defense reaction. And he's, whoa, that was an interesting play, Dan. Wow. So if you don't know actually quite what happened there, Dan has used his Riptide ability to the maximum. So what he has done is he's crowned Providence, blocked with that, got rid of a card, then he has played a trap from hand, activating Riptide's ability to put a card from his hand to Arsenal, and activated another Inertia, and coming my way. I'm not entirely sure what Inertia does, the Inertia trap does, but he has fully blocked my Red in the Ledger whilst pushing damage back, I assume. Just had a look back just to make sure I did actually take the damage that was from Riptide's ability, because Inertia trap is essentially, if the attack has greater power than its base, then you get an Inertia, activating Riptide's ability, which is if you activate a trap card, then you deal 1 damage to your opponent, which in this case he's doubled Inertia trapped me. Red in the Ledger had +2 from the Braces of Belief, pushing the damage and fully blocking my attack at the same time. Brilliant play by Dan, well done. So after fully blocking the Red in the Ledger, Dan is now just waiting to see what my next plan is with the next Red in the Ledger he knows about. I am now going for a bit more of a go wide turn, doing an E strike just for 5 go again, I'm assuming, and then pushing another Red in the Ledger. He knew this one was coming from the second knock that I played in the previous turn. He's just going to soak up the damage from the E strike, because he's not bothered about any cards that don't have any on-hits. This is what he's bothered about blocking, the ones that have the on-hits and the nasty ones of that as well. Red in the Ledger being the nastiest one of them all, giving him only one action on his turn if this hits any damage at all. And Dan now again showing it's more of a hybrid build, this Riptide. It's got the go wide aspects and it has the traps to follow through. He has now followed through with a boulder trap. This is, again, it's like an inertia trap. If the attack has greater base, it can deal its effect or putting a -1 onto any equipment of his choosing. He's choosing my Spring Tunic because he'd rather me block with my Skullbone Cross Wrap. Because it is more of a key value to the deck than it is the Spring Tunic. He'd rather me have the resource than potentially get a Dominate if this goes to endgame as well. But again, it triggers that and triggers Riptide, so again he's dealing damage to me on my turns. And that's all he needs to do. As you can see, the health difference, me pushing a lot of high-end attacks and then it's coming to no avail. I'm not pushing through any damage whilst he's pushing through damage on my turn, just the same as a Bloodpox would be. But now, playing Codex of Frailty, this is one of the newer cards from Outsiders that is just absolutely brilliant for Ranger and Assassin, and it is brilliant just for Azalea as well because Death Dealer only being a once per turn action. Lexi has a bow that has twice per instant. It is just insanely good, but this being a brilliant card for Death Dealer build of Azalea because you can just come in with an attack and then you can follow it up with, if it has go again, with this, with them thinking all they need to do is block out this attack and they can't use the bow again. Codex is now fixing that, especially with the ban of Bullseye Braces. So from Codex of Frailty, you can get a card from your grave and put it straight down, face down to Arsenal. And what I've done here is a nice little combo that I love to do as a Memorial Ground to get a card that I really want to dominate on top of the deck, and then Codex of Frailty just to push any auras that might do us any favours. Ponder being one of them always does a great favour, and Frailty onto your opponent's side. Any card from Arsenal that's being used, that's an attack. Riptide, every card pretty much is going to be that anyway. They get -1, and their -1s could add to victory in the end of your match. And what I've chosen to do here is get a Red in the Ledger back from Memorial Ground and Codex, so this way I have one that's dominated and also I have one back into the deck, so all I need to do is get one Knock the Death Whistle back, and which is very unlikely now given the turn that it was, but at least now if I have to, I have a Red in the Ledger back in deck now, and that's all I'm needing to do. And the Ponder Breaking gives me an Arsenal at the end of the turn, so I will guarantee a Skullbone turn to opt one, and just to see what's actually going to happen. Now what I noticed with Dan's play was a lot of the times if he is having to block out with a lot of cards, he'd still have 2 card hands, but a lot of the times he wasn't actually using anything of them. He did right at the start with that Lace of Inertia saving shot, but one thing I noticed in this game is he didn't really actually push any 2 card hands onto me, even with the effects of like Red in the Ledger. Perhaps he couldn't actually do anything, which is what I'm assuming so. But a lot of the times he was just kind of blocking out everything he could, push the damage he needs to with the traps, and then just Arsenal and pass and turn. Usually to me that's not the way to really go about these games, but when you was his hero Riptide, that's all you need to do. There was one turn before he'd pushed 2 damage onto me just from blocking, and it was a dominated attack, so there's a lot of the times that people just assume like that's all you have to do, that's all you can do, and that's all he does need to do, just push damage anytime possible to get me down to a point where a trap could kill me on 1 health, and that's something I'm very well aware of and wanting to avoid as much as possible. So in this turn I have Dead-Eyed, Raid the Glide Path. Obviously I didn't see anything from when I loaded up Batman Ball, but then I did draw into a blue pitch, which I'm assuming is what I wanted to do to kind of make sure that I had enough resources to actually fire the battering bolt. And he's taken all the damage here, and this is when it gets scary. If he is happy to reveal the hand that he has, he is just going to be showing me how well and truly fucked I am. Which is going to be the hilarious part, so let's have a look, see what he revealed. So looking back at the footage, he has revealed that he had Lace of Inertia, Seek and Destroy, Falcon Wing and Bolton Shot, and he's got his resource from the Trench Coat. I do apologise, I should have mentioned at the start. Trench Coat lets him get a card from face down Arsenal to the bottom of deck and gain a resource. He had a face down card, used it to get his resource to then load a Bolton Shot. He went straight into Ravenous Rabble, so this is going to be one absolute nasty, insanely wide turn. And I'm choosing just to take all of this, which I'm assuming that he's trying to get the reload from Bolton Shot as well, so he didn't even need to play Lace of Inertia to push this damage through again. And now he's pushed some insane amount of damage there. That was one hell of a turn. The battering bolt that I played against him for 12 did not matter. It halved his health, and all it done was realise how well and truly fucked I am with that turn. That was a brilliant play, Dan. Absolutely insanely wide, and that's all he needed to do, just to actually push damage. I don't know if he knew he had Ravenous Rabble on top, but then that reveal and a red card as well to come in for 4 go again on top of everything else. Absolute mad play, brilliant. I absolutely love it when a game gets to this stage. So a lot of people would have probably questioned why I took so much damage. I think I took 17 in total for that turn, with the Seek and Destroy being out, and I think I just kind of in my head committed to the strategy of I'm taking this damage. He's got a Seek and Destroy. I had no arrows in hand, I don't think, but I had 2 Codexes, so I can counter that Seek and Destroy and Lace of Inertia to then fire this back. If you've noticed, I used a Codex to load up Death Dealer, but didn't actually load anything up from it. That is because Death Dealer's effect is stated that you may load up an arrow. The only difference is if you don't draw the card. So all I've done here is try to minimise how many cards Dan has had in hand with the Codex of Frailty, because he will have to discard. But all I've done is buffed up this Red in the Ledger as much as possible with Codex, getting me Ponder to counter the Seek and Destroy, get the Frailty out so that he would have to have anything he gets back in Arsenal from the Codex that I'm allowing him, it's going to be minimum damage, and use Red in the Ledger just to minimise any go wide turn again, because I could not survive another attack like that. But he has chosen to get rid of a 3 block and then taking some of this damage, so he is going to get one action, but with 1 card left in Arsenal, and I'm assuming he must have got either the Ravenous Rabble or a Falcon Wing or something, but yeah, but it's a Bolton Shot, sorry, so anything that would be pushing for damage, he has chosen to go that route instead. I'm surprised he didn't go Saving Shot, if I'm honest with you, but it is coming in for 3, so all I'm wanting to do here is making sure I can block it out, and I'm choosing to block it out, but it looked like another Bolton Shot. But it's getting to that stage now. I can't afford to go right down to 1, because all he is going to be doing is he's going to just make sure that he is setting me up for a trap, essentially. He could just block out. And this is a card that not many people will probably see in Azalea, is Remembrance. So this allows you to get any 3 action cards back into your deck. It banishes afterwards, but the 3 cards go back into your deck, you shuffle your deck. So this is another card for that Knock the Death Whistle that I said about before. Any chance I'm going to shuffle the deck, because I know it's pretty far down in the deck to go, and it's going to take quite some grinding to make sure I get that back into hand. This is what I wanted to do, just to shuffle the deck up and kind of reset it, so I'm not sure what the pitch stacks were going to be, because I'm not going to go the pitch stacking route, especially since I know exactly what cards are pretty much going to be coming next. But all I'm going to be doing here is pushing damage from whatever I can. I'm assuming he's just going to take this Bolton Shot, unless he's suspecting the raises, but either way I'm either going to be pushing damage more, or he is going to be, let's push damage more, or he would get 2 cards blocked, just in case he didn't want the go wide aspect. But he knew we could risk it. There's no chance of me having, 3 raises in the deck to push the card lethal. but he is choosing to go the route of take damage because I'm essentially going to kill you this turn. So see how this plays out. This is one arrow I sort of overlooked with Riptide, is Endless Arrow, because if you have a card that can give all your cards go again, or something that will give it go again like Razor Reflex or Rapid Fire, Endless Arrow can be used multiple times, and one of the oldest OTK tricks in Blitz Azalea was a Rapid Fire Endless Arrow. I've managed to do it twice myself actually to kill someone on maximum health with it. But Riptide can do it a lot easier because all he needs to do is give this Endless Arrow constant go again, and after he does that it can just come in multiple times with the reload from Riptide's ability on buff up, so it can come in for multiple times of 6, multiple times of 7, whatever he actually needs, and he only has to load it up once with Death Dealer like he has here. But I'm choosing for just to block 6, take 1 damage I'm assuming. Oh no, it looks like I've managed to fully block it somehow. My apologies, I did look back at the footage quickly there, and it was Codex of Bloodrot that he played to load up Endless Arrow. I thought he played a buff up, but what I've done is just fully blocked it. He's just given me a Bloodpox token for me to try and push that damage to get me down to 1 health, and what he's doing now is just making sure that I'm actually either paying for it or just going as whatever way about it I can to try and either push the damage, prevent the damage, him to push it, and just to see how this turns out. And what's happening here is I am just pushing a drill shot just to see what I can do for damage wise, but I'm also going to be oh, that's one of the legendary Riptide specialization traps, but unfortunately for Dan it does not trigger off anything because drill shot has no difference in its base power or anything. It's just a straight up 4 and -1 on the only thing I can, his quiver. But all I've done there is push a drill shot because all I have is a 3 pitch in hand, a blue pitch sorry, to pay for that blood pots. And what Dan's doing here is that Endless Arrow again. He's just pushing damage to try and get it back into Arsenal as well, whilst also giving me a Bloodpox token again, trying to get me all the way down to what he needs to be. And this is the part where I rarely do it at checking the opponent's grave, because I have not seen Reinvasers played at all in this game, and I have made the mistake of assuming Alexi before had no Reinvasers in deck, and then all of a sudden he had 3 in hand from 1 attack, and it ended the game because I just assumed that he didn't have them, and it just turns out that they were at the bottom of the deck ready for endgame. As you can see, it is getting to that critical point now where I'm having to choose whether to just block out and give him his 4-card hand at the start of his turn. Luckily he has put a -1 on my tunic, so I am always going to have a resource to use if I manage to survive 3 turns in a row. And what he will be doing is possibly, I'm hoping, to not push any go wide turns. He has used a lot of Falcon Wings and Bolton shots, and I'm just hoping that he does just use something else. He's pitching an infecting shot to load an infecting shot, so I'm assuming he will be just pushing this damage through just for any more blood poxes. I'm assuming there might be some buff ups. There's one. Oh, it's not a buff up, it's a Ravenous Rabble. And he's revealed another infecting shot, like my Knock the Death Whistle turn earlier this game. He's revealed all of these different, all of the same card, 3 infecting shots, but essentially in 1 turn, 1 coming next, and he's just given it a go wide turn. So lucky for me, I've managed to just block out enough for Ravenous Rabble to then have enough to block out for infecting shot. Don't think he has any cards left in. Oh, he does. He has 2 cards left in hand. So this is becoming the stage now where I've got to assume, has he got a Razor Reflex or possibly a Reinvasers? Can I risk it? I'm most likely not going to risk it because I don't like to try and play the risk. Again, I'm checking the grave for anything that he uses, because Dan's deck builds are very interesting, and with him being a new hero that I'm not used to him playing, I don't want any kind of tricks to come out of nowhere. I would like to see it, but I'm also not going to play the risk of it as well, so I'm most likely just going to full hand block this again and just not risk any plays of any razor reflexes, any rain razors, any lunging presses, anything that could essentially kill me right now. So I did choose at this stage to kind of play out the risk of not actually having any attack reaction on top of what he was doing, and me just trying to get something through from my side just to push a bit of damage onto his. And I'm guessing it's just a Codex of Frailty, which is brilliant, so -1 on his attacks from Arsenal, giving myself a ponder, so I'm actually still getting the draw that I'm needing to Arsenal a card and set myself up hopefully for a good turn. But this is the stage where I've been on the back foot, where it feels like I have from early into the game. He's been on more health than me all the time, and the only time that I've managed to push a lot of damage, all he did was reveal how absolutely well and screwed I was with that Battle and Ball turn, to reveal that he has just got an insanely go wide turn that turned out to be even more go wide, drawing into a Ravenous Rabble to reveal a red as well. So he had a brilliant hand here as well, and what he's doing is another Riptide specialisation trap. I will try and work out what they actually do, because you don't see them too often, especially with them being legendaries and can only have one on the deck. But he has chosen to block out one with one card. It doesn't trigger the Riptide trap ability. Again, it's just a straight up drill shot for 4. There's no added things to it that he can give me. But what he is doing as well is I've blocked the 3, taken the 1, going down to 2. And now what he is doing is using his bow to get rid of his arsenal to free up a slot to fire again another infecting shot that I knew was coming from the previous turn. Going to give me, I think that is Lace of Blood Rock as well. So he is going to be pushing 8 with 2 Blood Boxes on hit. So it is going to be another 3 card block from me, just to make sure that I'm not actually taking any damage that I don't need to be doing, because it will kill me if any of these Blood Boxes come through. And if I revert to what I said about earlier, I am on the back foot, I am just blocking constantly here, but what I have managed to make myself do is give my Tunic a 3 counter and essentially come in at him for 6 damage, which is absolutely brilliant, because I don't think he has any 4 blockers in hand, and if he does, he hasn't quite used them yet. But it is just a straight up 6 with Spire, but it is 6 damage that he will have to now give up 2 cards to actually block with. And they're going to have to be either, at least one of them being a 3, because any 2 blocks he's still going to be dying. But I'm also pushing it to possibly give myself another Ponder, just to possibly get an Arsenal card. But even not, if he gets if I get a 2 card block from him, then it is setting up for a possible win turn for me in the next stage. But my deck is very running low compared to the size of my deck compared to the grave. It is very worrisome, and he has chosen to do a 3 card block. Like I said before, he had 2 blocking cards in his deck. It's very likely for that to happen, and it turns out he's managed to pull a full hand of 2 blocks, is what he told me at the end of that turn. So he's having to block with 3 of them and just Arsenal and passing. So it is getting to the point now where I'm essentially just hoping that I can pull off a winning turn here with some sort of big dominate. So after being on the back foot all game, essentially this is my chance to try and end the game now with Dan. Loading up a Bolton shot, but I've got to be very careful here, because he could have 2 traps and kill me. So I'm just assuming that he has to have a trap card in Arsenal, so I'm getting Remorseless back. If you don't know what Remorseless does, is if this hits, every action card he plays he loses the life for immediately. But also, if it's been put face up into Arsenal, which from the Azalea ability it has, he can't use defense reactions from Arsenal. So this is just limited in what he can actually do with a reaction of traps to kill me to 1. Because now his trench coat is gone, he can't get rid of that Arsenal. So now, yep, that is absolutely game. So an absolute fantastic game with Dan. But I will say this, it was absolutely a joy to play against, and that was one of the most stressful games I have ever had. But anyway, thank you very much guys for watching. If you are enjoying the videos, please like and subscribe, and tomorrow I will be uploading the final round against a Prism deck. But yeah, thank you, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.